Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. I just want to make sure that you all can hear me. One of my biggest fears in these presentations is not to be heard and having a whole 20-minute conversation. So if you can just say, I can hear you in the comment section, that would be very helpful. Thank you. Awesome. Great. Very good. All right. So I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully it works. I have a presentation prepared. Just one moment. Okay, so that should be the cover screen, the cover page. So thank you again all for joining us today. I am really excited to be here. Hopefully you guys are all doing well wherever you are joining from. Today's topic is talking about your post-MBA career goals and how to use those in your MBA applications. So we can just get started, and hopefully those that are joining us can always come back and rewatch the video from the beginning if they miss anything. Great. So universities are ask you to share your career goals and how you imagine the school will help you get to those goals. On the screen, you have 3 examples of what type of questions business schools ask about the career objectives. So Wharton asked that in 500 words, you write an essay responding to what do you hope to gain professionally from the Wharton MBA. In this essay, you are really expected to talk about your professional aspirations, to let them know how the Wharton MBA is going to help you get there. Similarly, Booth asked that in 250 words, you convey how will a Booth MBA help you achieve your immediate and long-term post-MBA career goals. Similarly, Columbia states that through your resume and recommendation, we have a clear sense of your professional path to date. And they ask that in 500 words, you convey what are your career goals over the next 3 to 5 years, and in your imagination, how your long-term, what is the long-term dream job that you would have? While only samples, these questions are representative of the way in which business schools ask about your career objective. They are indicative of the importance, directions, in the importance your goals play in the admission process. After all, they ask you to dedicate an entire essay to that particular response. The schools really want to know that you have considered your career plans and that those plans are ambitious enough that they require an MBA, yet logical and attainable, where you do not need to jump through hoops to get to that career. Now, in this process of asking you to be clear about your goals and what you're hoping to attain, the business schools, also get to weed out those applicants who are looking for a career break. So they need 2 years off from their very high intensive jobs, or who are looking for that brand recognition. Rather, these business schools want applicants who really know how the MBA is going to help their career objectives. Now, there is no right answer to your career goals question, provided, of course, that your goal is logically related to business school. Successful applicants seek various paths that benefit from an MBA and use various methods to capture how they intend to leverage their experiences to help their experiences with an MBA to help them advance their career. Some candidates continue down the same path of the career they're currently in before they apply, but are seeking a more senior role, while others look to change entirely and pursue entirely different careers. Either way, either direction is perfectly acceptable so long as you talk about and clearly outline your goals. So how do you use your career direction to your advantage in your MBA application? A way to prepare yourself to answer these types of questions in your application is to be introspective, to understand what you want to accomplish from a macro perspective and the impact you want to make. You also want to showcase how your personal, academic, and professional experiences have influenced your direction and will serve to your advantage in that path that you are seeking to direct yourself. When you think about the people you are competing against in the MBA application, they, like you, are highly ambitious and bring a lot of experiences to the table. They also have a clear outline of how the MBA supports their vision for the future they are carving for themselves. And the most successful applicants are those who make their career objective their own intrinsic value. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. Now, it is instrumental that you build a solid understanding of why you want to do that which you are setting out to do. In the admission process, your presentation of your goals will be challenged, and you don't want to be the person who last minute, after months and months of work, decides to change the entire goal because someone has told you that your goals are not correct, or you should change them to something entirely different. I say this because in my professional experience, I have seen this happen. And I'm just going to share one example so you get an idea of what I'm talking about. So I worked with a Kellogg re-applicant with very strong IB, investment banking, and private equity experience. In the process of us working together, we designed a plan on how to present his vision of what he wants to do, which was essentially to long-term start his own sustainability-focused private equity fund. As part of us working together, I encouraged him to have conversations with representatives of the target school to better understand the program through the lens of a current MBA candidate at Kellogg. On one such occasion, a student told my client that he should change his goals to consulting because it's an easier career direction or career path for the admission, for the committee to grant him admission. And that is how, meaning consulting is how most or the majority of the class presented their applications. Now, after months of work, you can imagine how unsettling this information was to my client. We've spent countless hours preparing his narrative and really looking at all the nuances of that presentation. But in the end, he stuck with his conviction and motivations that drove him to pursue the MBA, believing really that following his own that following the crowd, rather, is not the right path to presenting his case. And besides, he already had a rejection from the school. So it was really important for him that this was the year that he is going to, get admitted there or attend another university. So his inclination to really follow his own path proved successful when he got admission to Kellogg's 2-year MBA program. And on top of that, a substantial scholarship to help with that decision process. So I say this because it is, and I shared the story because it's really important that you build the story and are extremely convinced in your ideas and what you want to convey to the admission committee. Spend the time to do it right. Otherwise, every time you have a conversation with anyone, you will be swayed from one direction to another. And that is not a really productive way to spend your time or in really crafting that application. Now, to differentiate your application, you obviously require a strong presentation of the motivation that makes you want to wake up in the morning and continue the grind that influences you to make this decision to develop a stronger professional self so that you continue in this path. And the business schools want to know that you have a mission, that you have a path you are carving for yourself, a motivation so deep that regardless of them giving you or granting you admission to their school, you are going to continue in this path however long it takes you to get there. Now, universities don't really want someone who follows the crowd, as we saw from the example I mentioned earlier. They don't want someone who is superficial in reasons for wanting the degree or the career. Rather, they want high achievers, high performers who have an intrinsic drive which motivates them to move beyond the ego to wanting to make a difference in an organization, in a community, in their surroundings, or in the world, or in the sector that they're a part of, or they want to be a part of. While the method through which you present your goals are open-ended, capturing your unique motivation will differentiate you from the rest, even if your job is investment banking or finance or consulting. Without clearly defining your post-degree goals and making a clear connection as to how the institution will help you get there, it will really be difficult for you to gain admission. Not clearly articulating your vision in your application will lead you to miss out on those opportunities to gain admission to your dream school, which is really just a step, or intended to be a step, to help you swiftly advance to the career you want. Now, I understand that it is difficult to know so resolutely your career goals, especially if you're, if you're still trying to figure things out or figure out your path. I am a graduate of NYU and Yale, and before my admission to these two institutions, I was sitting where you are, trying to figure out what my goals are. Now, since then, I have helped others navigate the admission process, and 90% of my clients who follow my guidance have been placed at top 20 business schools. Every client I work with initially feels like you do, not knowing how to present their goals or not having enough data points to speak with conviction the narrative that makes their application stand out, so that the admission committee has a sense that they can help that particular, or they can help you to reach your goals. Now, my goal today is to help you think about the goals question in your MBA admission process from the lens of the admission committee. Now, I don't mean for you to present your goals as what you think the admission committee wants to hear. That is not something that you can ever know, so might as well just not go down that path at all. Instead, what I want to focus on is to present when you present your goals, to think about or to take into account the lens through which the goals will be evaluated in the admission process. Now, I have prepared 3 different points for you to consider in this process. There are quite a few more to that. There's a whole process that you have to go through to make sure that your goals are really sound and that you have provided ample details. But if you start with these, you will start in the right direction, building and crafting your message. So a major element of the admission decision is character and fit. The schools really want to know that you embody their values, that you fit the character representative of the school. Now, it is important to remember that the character values are also tied to your goals, whether short-term or long-term. So for example, Stanford really values innovation. And not only do they want to see sort of innovative thinking and action in your past experience, but also in how you present what you want to do. Why are you getting a Stanford MBA? So that value of what Stanford stands for and what is known of Stanford graduates needs to be embodied in your presentation. You should be able to speak about how this character value has influenced your professional decisions, regardless of your admission to that target institution that you're applying to. Now, suppose your goal is to work in finance, and you worry about, understandably so, differentiating yourself from other applicants who are also applying for that finance career. The guidance I can provide to you is that you are introspective in who you are as a person and rely on your character values to showcase how your career goals and how the lens through which you look at the career you want to attend, that you want to have rather, makes you different. So let's say that you are someone who wants to work in finance, but you're also very sustainability conscious. Then a way that you can present your goals is that you focus on how you imagine bringing sustainability or a sustainable lens to finance in your future role. In other words, the only way you differentiate yourself in your application and in your goals presentation of your application is when you weave the personal character, the personal motivation to your goals. That is really what makes an application stand out, is the personal motivations. It makes it, I mean, the word says it, personal. This really brings depth of character in the presentation of your entire profile, and that the admission really wants to see, that the admission committee wants to see. They want to, like, when you are admitted to the institution that you are targeting, and you decide to attend, you will forever be a representative of that institution. And the admission committee knows that, and they're looking at that element and you're thinking of that element when they are reviewing your profile. So really be sure that you showcase your character and who you are in a way that makes the admission committee want to have you on their alumni list as a future leader. Number 2, your goals need to be both aspirational and achievable. By aspirational, I mean that you should not be able to reach your goals tomorrow without an MBA. Your goals should require some professional development to be able to attain it. Otherwise, really, what's the purpose of doing an MBA or going and getting an MBA? However, the goal should not be so lofty that the admission committee cannot imagine how your professional development thus far has, and pair that with an MBA, will help you get to that destination. Now, for example, if you have had a career in consulting, let's just say management consulting, and you want to now transition to public health. Now, the first question that's going to come to the mind of the admission committee is an MBA the right program for you? Should you be gaining a master's in public health? degree. So that's the first question. And they really want to know that this degree is business oriented, or the job, rather, the function of your job is going to be business oriented. And also on top of that, they want to look at your background, your professional background, to see if you have transferable skills so they can help market you to that job, to the future company that you want to work at. If you require more years of experience in addition to a 2-year MBA to get to that goal, the admission committee is going to say no to your admission, even if you say, I am willing to do that. The admission committee is not, in most cases, will not take the risk. So it's important that you think about how achievable your goals are, even if they are aspirational in nature. Hopefully that makes sense. So remember that, number 3, remember that no one wants a tabula rasa. Tabula rasa is just a Latin word that means a blank slate. It means just completely clean. A blank slate is not really what is expected of an MBA applicant who on average have about 5 years of work experience. So you cannot expect that the MBA is going to give you all the skills that you need to get to that goal that you are looking for. You need to bring something with you. And this brings me to my final point here, is that you need to identify transferable skills to make the goal a reality. Regardless of whether you are seeking to stay in the same field or you're carving a new path for yourself, you need to show how you will be able to use the experiences you have had to get to the job that you want. Business schools essentially are not miracle workers. They cannot make you have that which you do not. So you still have to apply to internships, you still have to apply to jobs, and you have to present your resume in those applications. And you're competing not only with the cohort in your given school that you are attending, but also across the board with other highly qualified, top talented professionals. And employers expect you to come in with some prior experience, some skills in hand, even if they're going to train you for the specific job that you will be doing. So my advice to you is that you conduct research on the skills you need to have to be successful in your future role. Understand not only the qualitative or the quantitative segments of that role, but also the qualitative skills that you will need to have in order to be successful in getting that job. Once you understand what the role entails, and I highly recommend that you you conduct your research, sort of not thinking about which MBA you're applying to, but just conduct the research on what you want to do. Then you need to identify also the skills that you have, that you currently have, and then also the skills that you will need. So here you're going to want to create 2 buckets. One bucket is going to be the transferable skills, even if they're not apples to apples, and the skills that you will need to have, those need to be related to how an MBA is going to help you, or those should in some way be provided by the MBA program for you to be able to succeed. Now, remember that institutions want to accept you only if they can see how they can help you get to your transition or to this next step in your career progression. If you are not able to tell them how you intend to use the skills that you currently have to advance your career, then do not expect them to do it for you. If you cannot show them how the school is going to tool you or retool you for that career goal, then do not expect them to grant you admission. I worked with a client, an engineer, and here's an example. He was an engineer by training, and in his application, he talked about how his divorced parents' different lifestyles made him comfortable being around a diversity of people. He was able to comfortably speak with very technically oriented individuals as well as C-suite executives. This ability, this transferable skill that he acquired through a lifetime, that one would consider this as a personal skill, a personal development, personal character, he was able to make that connection in showing how this skill will be instrumental for his consulting career. Now, he is a consultant at McKinsey, and he's definitely able to use the skills that he developed over his lifetime in that role. So make the connection for the reader, even if it's implicit, on the skills you bring to the table and how you intend to use them to get to your goals. Further, you need to be able to communicate what the institution can offer you, so they understand the role they're playing in your career progression, in your career success. So this is a really important element for you to remember and keep in mind. Now, bringing your own lens to the presentation of your post-MBA career goal is absolutely essential to helping you gain admission. While you want to be ambitious with your goals, whether they are changing your career or staying within the same field, but a more senior role, you want to clearly articulate how your personal character differentiates you from the crowd. You want to showcase that you understand what awaits you on this journey that you set out to do, and how you are going to leverage the skills to help you get to your post-MBA goals. Now, if you want to dive deeper into a discussion about your career goals, I want you to reach out and schedule a call. I believe a link will be made available on the chat section or in the comment section. You can just also look at my website and reach out to schedule a call. I really want to hear your stories and what you're hoping to do. Now, I want you to really be excited about this process. I know I've talked a lot about various different components that you need to keep in mind in this admission process, but this is an exciting time. Yes, it requires a lot of work. It requires reflection. It requires research and careful presentation of all of that. But I grew up believing that everything worthwhile requires work, otherwise everyone would do it. So take the time to do the research and present it in a way that is unique to who you are as a person. So when you feel anxious about the presentation of your goals and find it difficult to put thought to paper, I want you to imagine receiving that email or that call from your target or your dream school, whether that's Columbia, Booth, Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, or any other school that you are targeting. Imagine getting that letter that says you have been admitted to our cohort, whenever that is, whether it's in round 3 now, or round 1 or next application cycle altogether. Keep that image in mind as the fuel that drives you to continue on your path to presenting your unique approach to your career goals. Let that image inspire you to not give up or to not give in on really and really spend the time to weave your personal character into your career goals so that you capture your unique self in your presentation for the admission committee. Now, a way to present, to prepare yourself for this highly competitive application cycle, and it is going to be a highly competitive application cycle, is by putting your best foot forward. Start preparing early and articulate why you want to pursue an MBA, why now is the right time. Ambitious but achievable goal that weaves your character into the motivation story will really enable you to present your career and yourself, opening doors for you to continue in the path that you have set out for yourself to really make a difference, whether that is here in the career that you're currently having or changing paths altogether. Now, as I get ready to respond to a few questions, hopefully you guys have had time to write a few questions down. I want you to take a minute to reach out and schedule a 30-minute free call with me where we'll talk really about your goals and what are you hoping to achieve. And hopefully I can give you some guidance on how to present yourself, how to leverage your goals into making a strong application. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and go to the question section. All right. So let's see the questions that we have. So Shikar is asking, I don't know if I can add him, but is asking, is a bad GPA a roadblock, and can a good master's GPA offset that in an MBA application? The question, the first quote unquote bad GPA is not great in an application. However, you can always think about ways that you can present or strengthen your profile. So if you get a higher master's, or if you obtain a master's degree and your GPA is much higher there, that's obviously going to work in your favor. If you have a GMAT or GRE score that is above class average, that is going to help in your favor. If you are interested in finance and you take the CFA level 1, even if it's not fully complete, so even if you don't have the full designation, the charter, those are all elements that work in your favor, showing the admission committee that you are serious about the career that you are embarking on. So look at opportunities, look at various ways that you can develop your profile. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot to work with, but you know, just look at sort of where your weaknesses lie and try to mitigate them with stronger anything else, right? So if it's academics, your lower GPA in undergrad may be helped with a stronger GPA in grad school, but also a stronger GMAT or GRE. So just show continuous improvement. Your low GPA in undergrad is not going to be a deterrent for you to get an MBA. It's just you want to show them that you are someone who will be able to handle the rigor of what that institution is expecting of their students. And that varies from institution to institution, rank, and everything else. Hopefully that answers. Tumpa is asking, can this goal be a CEO of a big company, even though I work in finance? This long-term goal, yes. Short-term goal, probably no. Long-term, you want to say a CEO of what? If you are CEO, typically the intention is that you are leading a company, obviously in one direction or another. So what is the motivator for you to be a CEO? Which section, which sector? What are you hoping to do in that role? Give the reader a bit of a sense, an idea of who you would be as a CEO and why you want to do this. Why it is important for you to do this. Okay. Tumpa, hopefully that was an answer, but you can feel free to reach out if you if you want to discuss further. Do we need to take care of the presentation in MIM just like MBA? I'm assuming presentation of the goals. Not every MIM is going to ask that question, but some do ask the question of what your goals are, where you're hoping, like, essentially they want to know, why are you going in this program? Why are you applying for an MIM? So it does not need to be as ambitious as an MBA, given that with an MIM, you typically are a recent grad. So you will not have a lot of years of work experience, but you still need to have a direction of where you're going. So do spend time thinking about what do you want to achieve and how is the MIM going to help you get to that goal. So the process still should be very similar to this that I talked about in the presentation. Okay. Sandeep is asking, in 9 years experience, is 9 years experience bad for MBA applications? It depends again on the goals. And also which school you're targeting. Some schools do prefer, less seasoned applicants, while others are comfortable accepting seasoned applicants. But it also depends on your goals of what you want to do. If you have 9 years of work experience and you want to work in management, in consulting, then it may not necessarily just be the MBA, it may be the challenge of getting to that goal that you want. So if 9 years is your current work experience, you may want to really take advantage of this coming application cycle to, especially like round one, and try to submit an early application to maximize your chances. Okay. Ravish, I'm not sure what your question is. The admission committee person if you want to reach out, please let me know. Please reach out and we can have a conversation about your question. Talk about becoming an investment banker if I am a CA working in Big Four. Nikhil, the question would still be the same if you want to work in investment banking. Why? What's the motivation? You should have a long-term vision, not just, I want to work in investment banking, because that can mean various different things to various different people. So what does it mean to you? Why do you want to do it? What is the long-term vision of how that investment banking career is going to help you get there, as well as how is the MBA going to help you get to that investment banking career? So spend a little time digging deeper into the reasons why in investment banking, especially because these are coveted positions, right? So you really want to not come. You really want essentially a clear indication, clear thought process of why this is the right path for you in your career. And if you want to talk about it, I'm happy to have a conversation. Just reach out and we'll schedule a call and discuss your career, the past experiences, what you bring to the table, but also what you're hoping to do with an MBA. Perfect. Ravish, yeah, so the question that Ravish is trying to ask is, when the admission committee person got the applicant to change their goals and the person stood their ground, it won't affect their chance. The example was not an admission committee person. It was a student who asked, who told the applicant to change their goals. So this individual had no bearing on the applicant's decision at all. It was a conversation he was having with current students at the school. He stood his ground because he believed in what he wanted to do. And that got him to the admission that he wanted. So I hope that answers the question. And I'm sorry I was not clear there. It was definitely not an admission person. That would be a whole different story. Okay. So Ankit is asking, does the admission committee appreciate if the candidate has built goals for the next 15 to 20 years post-MBA? It depends. So some schools, as you saw in some examples, the idea is that you present, 5 to 10-year plan. If you have built a plan that is longer than that, you can really make the connection in how the steps that you're taking towards getting to those goals. So you can definitely convey that, and they will appreciate the depth through which you have gone through to really outline what your goals are, and really make you. Just creating the goals for the next 15 to 20 years doesn't mean anything if you can't make the connections for them. They need to know that you have a plan, you have a direction, you have a sort of goal of where you're going. Obviously, that is a moving target because it's always going to be a future goal. However, they need to know that you know where you're trying to go to, you know what the skills that you need to have, you know the skills that you're bringing to the table, you know what the admission committee or what the business school is going to offer you, and that you make those connections and understand sort of the path that you need to get to that goal. Hopefully that makes sense. So short answer, yes, they'll appreciate it, but only if those goals make sense. Sorry about that. If the goals are too lofty, it's not going to work in your favor. So try to balance it out. I'm not sure what your goals are, but try to balance those out a little bit. Okay. Sanket is asking, would an MBA help in moving from IT to business side of any organization? I have 10 years of experience. What do you mean by business side? Is my first question. Business side of an organization just essentially, like, it's very broad, so you need to say more, and then you also need to talk about how you're going to leverage your IT experience to make that transition. So what skills are you bringing to the table? So spend a little more time in articulating what you mean by business side. If you approach it that way in your application, that's not going to help you at all. You won't get admitted in a presentation like that. Sorry to be very blunt, but that is just a reality. You need to spend a little more time because there's many different sides to a business, and they are going to want to know which side are you looking at. So articulate that in your materials. Okay, I think hopefully I didn't skip anyone. So if you found this session helpful, please hit the like button, and obviously don't forget to subscribe to GMAT Club. So Faizan is asking, could a low GPA affect the profile of a student's admission for MBA or study visa? I think that was one of the first questions. I don't know if you were present, but the GPA, a low GPA can affect admission, especially if everything else in the profile is somewhat average. I don't know your profile, so I'm just, having a conversation here. But if you have a low GPA, you need to really look at how you can improve or how you can showcase that you are a strong candidate in your admission. So that could mean, another person asked, like, if a master's degree, you don't necessarily need to get another master's degree just to get into an MBA program, so that's not a prerequisite, but you can look at courses that have certifications that show a grade. So like the top of my mind comes Harvard Business School's core program, which is an MBA preparation program. You have to go through, it's a very rigorous program. It's between, I think, 12 and 17 weeks. And at the end, you sit for an exam and you get an actual grade. That is highly regarded by admission programs, but there's also others that you can look at to help you increase your GPA. On top of that, you can really, depending on the schools that you're targeting, try to present a GMAT or GRE that's higher than the average of the class to really try and balance out the lower GPA, so that the school knows that you are able to handle the rigor of that target institution, whatever that looks like for you. The visa, the study visa, once you're admitted, should not be an issue with your low GPA, but the problem is getting the admission is the first step. So I would try to look at ways that you can really strengthen your profile in other ways that are academically oriented, so that they know that you can handle, like I said, the rigor of the program. Decision making in other tech support. Sanket, can you just like reframe the question? Sorry, I just want to make sure that I don't miss it. Thank you, Ravish, for the compliment. Yashpal, I'm not sure what your question is. HBSS 2+2 deferred program. If the question is related to the goals, you still have to have a clear idea of where you're going, even in the 2 years before you start the MBA program, especially for those types of 2+2 deferred programs. Are the deferrals being provided this year by the schools? I'm assuming SC, you're asking if you are admitted and if the schools are offering deferrals. It's case by case, not like they were last year, so it's not the same level. Last year they did offer quite across the board quite a few deferrals, but this year they're not as keen on making those offers. So it's a case by case, depending on what your case and how you're presenting yourself. If that's you on, if that's your case here. Okay. So does the scholarship solely depend on GMAT score? Should one mention about scholarship during the admission interview process? Scholarship, merit-based scholarships are heavily dependent on academics, and in academics you have your undergraduate or graduate program, your academic experiences, as well as your GMAT GRE. So the merit is going to be heavily weighted on your academic performance. Whereas you have also need-based scholarship, which are dependent on your financial circumstances. The scholarship, not sure what you mean by the second part of the question, which is, should one mention about scholarship during the admission interview process? The question that I would have for you is, are you only applying to the school and accepting admission if you're offered a scholarship? If you present it in that way, you run the risk of the institution thinking that you will say no to them if they don't give you a scholarship. And no one really likes to be held hostage. So I would advise against it, unless there's a specific reason you're asking, which I'm not aware of, but happy to talk about that further. Sandeep, thank you again. Any more questions? I'll give a few more minutes. Like I mentioned, you can always reach out. I'm happy to have conversations with you if you want to talk about your specific case, about your specific goals, what you're hoping to achieve. I do anticipate that this is going to be a very competitive year, especially with everything that's happening in the world, as I mentioned. So, do start early. If this is your year as to when you're applying, when you're considering applying, really start early the process, because it will really take a lot of time. And I try to convey this to people that I speak with, but until you go through the process, you won't know. But you will thank me if you start early. Okay. Do military applicants for 2-year programs get more leeway with being older, having more work experience? Sean Blair is asking a question about military applicants. Sean, it really depends on your goals. You would definitely be on the older side of the candidates, and schools have admitted, but the older of an applicant you are, the much more difficult the 2-year program is going to be, much more difficult to gain admission to a 2-year program. That said, business schools do very much appreciate military applicants. So I would definitely consider applying, especially if you can apply to round 1, if this is what you're thinking about doing. Obviously, don't go through the process if you're not sure, but if you're sure that this is what you want to do, that you want to transition out of the military, then try to do it as early as you can. And round 1, if you can, it's always a better option there. SC, I believe so. This year will be competitive again. There's a lot of applicants who have been affected by everything that's happening in the world, not sure of the opportunities that await them. So it is going to be another competitive year, for sure. Parth, we've discussed the career plan, post-MBA. I would recommend that you rewatch this session once we are over. It will be available on YouTube, and I go through at least 3 segments of how to go about presenting what you want to, presenting your career in a positive, in a way that that matters to the admission committee. So hopefully that's helpful. And if you have more questions after you watch the video, please feel free to reach out. I believe there is a link somewhere that can be shared, and we can schedule a call. Thank you. That was very quick. Awesome. All right, so I think that is all for today. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all for being very engaged in this discussion, and hopefully you found the session helpful. I look forward to hearing from you, and we can have a conversation more in person, virtually, to discuss your personal goals and aspirations. So thank you guys. I really very much appreciate it.